Snow did not fall that night. It erased. It swallowed sound, footprints, and memory, turning the northern valley into something blank and waiting. The place was known to those who lived nearby as White Hollow, a settlement so old that no map bothered to record it anymore. Empires rose and collapsed around it, borders shifted, kings changed names, but White Hollow remained where history stopped asking questions. At the edge of the village, in a house made of warped timber and old stone, a girl lay awake. Her name was Ira. She was 17, though her face carried the quiet fatigue of someone who had already seen too much winter. She lay wrapped in wool, listening to the wind scrape against the walls, her eyes fixed on the narrow crack beneath the door. Her father had not returned. 3 days earlier, Yakut, the village hunter, had gone into the northern forest. 3 days was enough time for meat to spoil, for blood to freeze, for men to vanish. No one went that deep alone, not anymore. The forest had changed. The elders whispered that wolves no longer behaved like animals. They spoke of broken oaths and old bargains, of a time when men and beasts had shared words instead of fear. Something had ended that arrangement long before Ira was born, and the forest had learned to remember. On the 4th night, Ira stopped waiting. Waiting had become heavier than fear. She opened the door and stepped outside, the cold biting through her boots. Snow covered the ground in smooth silence, except for one thing. Footprints. They were fresh, deep, and deliberate. Too large for a dog. Too narrow for a bear. They moved in a straight line away from the village, toward the tree line. Ira swallowed and followed them. Beyond the last house, the forest rose like a wall. Black trunks. Snow-heavy branches. The kind of stillness that pressed against the ears. Every child of White Hollow knew this boundary. People stopped here. Stories began here. Ira crossed it. She found him near a broken stone outcrop, half buried by snow. The wolf stood taller than any animal she had seen, nearly as high as a horse at the shoulder. His fur was ash-colored, streaked with silver, and his breath steamed in the cold like smoke from a forge. His eyes were pale gold, unervingly steady. Ira froze. The wolf did not charge. He did not bare his teeth. He simply looked at her. The moment stretched. Snow settled on branches. Somewhere, ice cracked. Ira felt the strange realization that the fear she expected never arrived. Instead, there was a pressure, like standing before something ancient and patient. Without knowing why, she spoke. "Did you see my father?" The words fell uselessly into the air. The wolf turned and began to walk away, slowly. After a few steps, he paused, glancing back. Waiting. Ira understood then that the decision was hers. She followed. The forest grew denser as they moved. The light dimmed. The trees closed ranks. After a long while, they reached an abandoned hunting ground, stone markers half collapsed, stained dark beneath the snow. Blood. Frozen, brown-red, old. Yakut was not there. Instead, Ira saw something worse. A body lay half buried against a tree. Or what remained of one. Torn clothing marked with the insignia of the Imperial Frontier Guard. The flesh was ruined, but the wolf sat beside it, untouched, as if standing watch rather than feeding. This was not how animals behaved. Ira felt her chest tighten. "You didn't do this." The wolf's ears twitched. His eyes remained fixed on her. For the first time, she understood the shape of the danger. This was not a beast problem. It was a human one. A horn sounded in the distance. Imperial horns. Soldiers were entering the forest. The wolf stepped closer to Ira. For a brief, impossible moment, he lowered his head and pressed his forehead gently to hers. His fur was warm. His breath smelled of iron and pine. Then he vanished into the trees. They found Ira moments later. The soldiers were nervous men, wrapped in chain and leather, their breath loud in the cold. They saw the body, the blood, the tracks leading deeper into the forest. They looked at Ira. "What did you see?" one demanded. Ira said nothing. Silence, she had learned, was sometimes the only defense left to the living. They dragged her back to White Hollow before nightfall. The elders did not look surprised when Ira told them where she had been. They gathered her into the longhouse, where firelight carved deep shadows across lined faces. One of the women, older than memory itself, spoke at last. "The wolves remember," she said. "That is their curse." She told Ira of the old pact. Long ago, when the First Empire reached the northern forests, it faced starvation. The wolves guided hunters, kept prey from disappearing, and in return were given protection. No traps. No poison. No killing without need. Then the empire grew stronger. The pact was broken. The wolves were hunted not for survival, but for sport. Their dens burned. Their young slaughtered. The forest learned what betrayal tasted like. "They do not hunt us," the elder said. "They judge." Ira felt the weight of it settle in her bones. "And my father?" The woman hesitated. "He knows the old paths. If he lives, it is because the forest has not finished deciding." That night, Ira dreamed of running. Not on 2 legs, but 4. Snow tore beneath her paws. The forest opened for her. She felt hunger, memory, rage, and something like grief braided together. When she woke, there were scratches on her door. Outside, just before dawn, the wolf stood. Closer now. Scarred along his flank. Older than she had guessed. Ira did not scream. "Why me?" she whispered. The wolf's gaze held her, heavy and deliberate. "Because you listened." The words were not spoken aloud, but they settled into her thoughts with terrible clarity. The soldiers returned 2 days later. They brought chains. Fire. Orders from the frontier commander. The forest was to be cleared. Wolves exterminated. White Hollow evacuated if necessary. Ira watched the men prepare torches and felt something break cleanly inside her. That night, she followed the wolf again. Deep into the forest. Past places no human should know. To an ancient stone circle buried beneath roots and snow. There, the wolf stopped. This is where the pact was broken. Ira understood what was being asked of her. Not friendship. Witness. The forest did not need a hero. It needed someone who would remember, and choose. When the soldiers entered the trees at dawn, they did not return. Some said the forest swallowed them. Others said the wolves came in silence, not as beasts but as executioners. Ira never confirmed either story. White Hollow still stands. The empire withdrew. The forest was left alone. Ira became something the village never named. She lived at the edge of the trees, speaking little, listening often. Travelers sometimes claimed to see a wolf walking beside her, scarred and watchful. Others said that on winter nights, 2 sets of footprints could be found where only one person should have walked. The forest remembers. And now, so does she.